Most people know very little about extraterrestrials and things like that in this country. People don't know anything now. Whenever Roswell happened, it was cut up. The next day they lied about it being a balloon and whatever. But there were so many things that happened there that even before that, Truman had set up the Majestic 12, which were 12 men who knew about it. They were scientists, some military types, and one of them, one of the 12, thought that they needed to start disclosing things about extraterrestrials to the American people. And he was really pushing for that. And we have a carrier named after him, Forrestal. I think he might have been the first Secretary of Defense. And Mr. Forrestal went to Bethesda Hospital, and he jumped out of a 14-story window. I think it was 14-story. However, it was proven later that he wouldn't have been strong enough to even run into it or hit a piece of furniture. So anyway, there's books on it, and most historians now believe he was killed because he wanted to bring that out. And so I got into that whenever I was studying about Kennedy, because Kennedy wanted to bring it out too. And if when I was young, I thought maybe the reason that they killed Kennedy was because of him trying to bring it out, But after I found out more about it, I realized that. I think that the Kennedys knew a good bit about it. And,
yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Gordon Gray was the MJ-12 member, and James Files has personal recollections of meeting him and talking to him.
Well, Gordon Gray, him and I, we used to sit down and share a six-pack or a couple of six-packs, and all depended on how much time we had. And he used to tell me a lot of stories about Area 51 and different stories, aliens, spaceships. And I thought the guy was really nuts, and I didn't believe him at the time. I used to laugh and agree with him, and we'd drink a beer, and we pretty good friends, at least as far as I was concerned, we was. And all I know is the stories that he told me about aliens and spaceships and that. And there was two crashes that night at Roswell. One was 35 miles northwest of Roswell. And two of the spaceships collided together, and the one blew up and the other one landed. It didn't land. It went into a ravine, into a muddy ditch, and half of it was buried in that ditch. And they dug it out and they exhumed it and they took it back and they carried it to someplace in Texas. And from there, I went to Dayton, Ohio, and Patterson Air Force Base. And as far as I know, it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the CIA, of course.
Gordon Gray was one of the members of MJ-12.
Yeah, the CIA made people disappear. Bob Lazar came out. He was working at S4, which is about 12 miles away from Maine side at Area 51. And that's where they had most of the stuff going on with the aliens and their flight equipment. And Bob Lazar came out and said that he had figured out how they were engineering the saucers, how to make them fly.
Reverse engineering.
Yeah, and he came out with another element. I think it was maybe 119, And they said there is no such, what is it, 116? 115. Okay, yeah. I was close.
115.
Anyway,
15.
he came out with that. And at the time he came out with it, they washed his whole life away. I mean, they went and there's no, I don't know if he ever had they took a birth certificate away. They took his colleges that he went to away. They erased him from the world. And then
Right.
unfortunately, they missed one thing. He had been in another government facility in New Mexico, and he had his phone directory from that, and his name was listed in there and what his telephone number was. So they missed that. But most people that are looking at that, they know that Bob Lazar is on the level.
Well, Bob Lazar is on the level, and just like me, they erased most of my life. It's very hard to find part of it. But Joe West found part of my history at the archives in St. Louis, and he went back there.
You mean John C. Grady?
John C. Grady, John C. Grady, I mean.
82nd Airborne.
He was the historian for the 82nd Airborne. He went back there, I don't know, 6-7 weeks later, and the folder was empty. He said, no further evidence available, the label on the ticket. They had a fire in the archives. Another thing that burned up was 1959, Operation Mobile White Star.
Yeah.
And some of my friends, finally, they dug deep enough into it, and they found out that Mobile White Star did exist in Laos. And they interviewed Fletcher Prouty, and he said, yes, that was one of his men.
Because I have mentioned some of this stuff, and MJ-12 does not mess around. They will come after you and eliminate you. So I'm happy that you're still here with all the information. You're saying stuff on a level I haven't heard before, so it's very impressive. Jim, you have something else you want to, or Scott, you have?
Have y'all heard of this? It's called the SOM 1 Special Operations Manual 1. Have y'all ever heard of that? It's a top secret document involving extraterrestrials. It was mailed in a film canister to a researcher years ago, and some people somehow get copies of these documents. And it was published in 1954. But it's called Majestic 12 Group Special Operations Manual. And it's many, many pages long, and it's got all kinds of references and explanations and stuff like that. It was leaked. Jim, in general terms, in general terms, but don't say what the target was. Explain. You've got somebody that's texted in a question that wants to know about the mission to the South Pole, to the Antarctica, but don't say what the targets were, but just the number of the targets and kind of what happened.
Jimmy, Files, what he's asking, you did an operation down to Antarctica, and without saying who the target was and anything other than that, how many people did you take out, and any other details that you can give us, and we'll fill in the blanks after you've passed.
It wasn't people, it was hybrids where they'd mixed DNAs, and I don't know what you would want to call them, but it was hybrids, and they couldn't even speak English. I mean, they just squealed and moaned and yelled a lot, and we probably killed over 40 of them. It was loose. They got loose at the Antarctica.
How tall were they?
Yeah, they were approximately 4.5 to 5 foot. What they were, I don't know. They were aliens or something from outer space, or if it's something that they mixed their DNA crossbreeding, I have no idea, and I wasn't filling in on it. I was just told it was a mop-up deal that we went there for, and we did that. We got rid of them because the people that would create them, I guess, were scared of them or whatever. So we shot and killed them, and they died easily.
Oh my God, that's an incredible share. Wow. Good ones, Jim Scott. That was over the top. Wow.
You've got to understand all the different countries like Russia and I guess Germany and United States. We all had a piece of the Antarctica down there, and we had these camps down there. and there's large caves that you could go in, and they worked in, and they had nuclear facilities down there. And one of the cover stories was we had to clean up, mop up down there because they had a nuclear problem, and there was gray pellets or light green pellets that were iridescent all over the ground.
That he would
They
say,
sent me and my team there. They needed somebody close by, and we was in Chile. And I grabbed some of my members there, and they flew us down there. And we landed there. They kept the plane running, and they couldn't shut it off because it's so cold that the fuel would freeze up in the lines. So they had heaters out there, big heaters that were blowing hot air on the airplane. So we went in there, and about 3.5 hours later, we come out, got on the plane, and flew back to Chile.
I want to take like a minute to expound on one thing that Jimmy said. I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that he would expose that one thing. But our friend Daniel Facina texted me, and he said, see if you can get Jimmy to comment about the Antarctica mission. Okay, so just for your audience, he was in Central America doing operations in the area where Hassenfusch was shut down. They were flying into Nicaragua. They're running cocaine, okay? He gets this mission, his mercenary group, which was part of, he worked for United Fruit Company under the name Colonel John Felter, okay? That was one of his aliases. He had 32 different State Department passports with different names on them at the time. But on paper, his paycheck was to Colonel John Felter, and it went to the CIA's bank in Miami, then was transferred to his bank in Chicago where his family lived on his money. Okay, so he gets tasked to go to the South Pole. He goes down there, and they say, hey, we've got these hybrids. They're like, and he said he wasn't sure if they were hybrids or aliens, but they were in some kind of detention facility, and they had gotten out of their area, and they couldn't control them, and they couldn't get them back into whatever they were, like control rooms or a certain floor of the facility, but it was multiple floors underground. And they flew them out there. They give them their weapons. They said, this is what they look like. He said they had blue skin, and their skin looked like the hide of an elephant or rhinoceros. It was kind of like cracked. It was like a leathery, sort of, not like our epidermis, but like a leathery hide. That they really had an animal look to them, and they couldn't control them. They were in the facility running loose, and he told them, go kill them. And his team went down there. They went down a few floors on elevators, and they went back and killed all of them. Then they went back up, had to sign non-disclosure agreements, and were told, okay, get back on the plane. And they were flown right back to Central America. It didn't last that long, just a couple days. In my wildest dreams, I didn't think he would disclose that, because he told me he didn't want it. And he's been on a UFO recovery thing too, and he doesn't want to talk about it because he feels like the average person that listens to this would go, "Oh, this is bullshit. There's no such thing as aliens," that kind of thing. And he said, you lose your audience and people think you're crazy. So he never wanted to talk about that. And I said, do you mind if I tell the story after you die? And he said, yeah, you can. I don't care what you say after I die, But one of our buddies texted me and said, see if you can get Jimmy to just in general terms, just verify that he did a hit for the government in Antarctica. He doesn't have to say what it was, but I was blown away that he admitted that they were the hybrids, because he didn't really know for sure what they were, but he said they weren't human. So that, to me, that kind of blows me away. I mean, that's a reveal that ought to be viral on the internet by tomorrow. It ought to be on Fox News, you know what I mean, and Newsmax or something. They say, we want to know more about that. But, here we've talked about this stuff, like Chappaquiddick. We let out that Ted Kennedy didn't really drive off the bridge drunk, that Mary Jo Kopechne was murdered and then driven off into the tidal pool. I actually sent an email with that information and that interview that Jim Manning did on YouTube to every newspaper in that area around Chappaquiddick, and gave them my phone number and everything. Not one of them called me back. So either they think I'm completely crazy, or like Jim Manning said, the CIA controls them, and they know that they can't talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. You know what I mean? They say, oh, my career will be over if I report this truth. You know what I mean? That's what it is. They don't have the guts to stand up and say, this is what our government is involved in. And we can fix it. We don't need to be doing, some of this stuff like, I don't know, they say that there's alien hybrids that live amongst us now. That's been going on for a long time, and all these other subjects that they talk about, I don't think we should be afraid of any of it. Did we really go to the moon? I don't know. There's so many things that you could talk about that are political, but I think when Jim revealed that tonight, I never thought he would reference to what they were.
And thank you, gentlemen, because you guys have been on the cutting edge of this information, pushing the truth when a lot of people don't want this truth to get out there. So lots of bravery from both of you. And, I and the rest of my audience in the world salute you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.